Hi everybody, this is Courtney with Fiber Fox Studios, and I want to welcome you again to another Mosaic Monday. Today we are going to talk some more about color as a follow-up video to last month's video where I did the color work hack showing how you can use the two cakes to create different mosaic projects. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that concept, and we're going to talk about using individual skeins of yarn. You don't have to run out and buy a bunch of cakes. First, we're going to talk about my pillow cover back here in the background. This pattern has not been released yet, so it'll be a few more weeks. I'm working on some variations of the design where these connect. It will be a very long tutorial to film in probably a couple hour video for you guys, so this is going to be a big one. It is coming though, but not out yet. It will be in a few weeks. This one I did the two cake concept, and I did not do any color control, so wherever it changed, I allowed it to change just so you guys could see that. I had said in the last video I wouldn't color control, so I used two cakes, and I used this cake right here as color A, and then I used this cake right here. You can see the pinks. I used that as color B. So I started with color A, and that means that all of this part right here, the outlines, the center, so every other row that you're seeing here in the dark, that is all from this ball of yarn. So I am still switching between two strands of yarn, so one being color A, the other being color B, all throughout the project, and that's what gives it that effect. So I am still using two strands of yarn, one color or one row in this color, next row's in that color, then back to this one, back to that one, and so forth. So for those of you who weren't understanding how you would go about using it, so you can see that back here, the yellow and the oranges, this brown, all of that is coming from this ball over here from color A. And all of this is the pink that you're seeing, that lighter pink tones all through there. So it's still every row I'm changing back and forth between those two. And that created this, and I think it turned out amazing. I really love it. I hope you guys do too. I'm going to kind of turn it so you can see some of the other ways the color worked out. So this is the other side essentially. And that's what you have. So the bottom looks like that. And we go to that. And then something similar fading here at the other top. So I really like how that turned out. Now, next thing I want to show you guys is, this is pattern number 1. I re-released this as a remastered version last week. And this is my project working with two opposite color cakes. And this is how that turned out. So as you can see, then we fade into the orange. So what did I use for this one? I used this cake and this cake. So I started with this cake, which has the kind of magenta tones and all here in the center. Started with it. So this cake right here is all of this outline that you're seeing. So all the outline looking. That is this cake. This cake right here is your blue tones, green, and then back to kind of a turquoisey blue. So we're moving back in between those colors. And that is how that turned out. So I did not color control again on this one. I just used one strand. So first row, second row, odd rows, even rows. That's how I did this, using each one, changing back and forth between them. So hopefully that clears up. Some people were a little confused whether I was just using the one and working with it for a number of rows and then switching to the other one. But no, you're using both of them simultaneously. One row is your odd rows, one row is your even, or one color is your even rows. So that's another way to use cakes. The other thing I do want to point out, I know several of you said you just have a lot of solid skeins of yarn. You can definitely use cakes that you find on the internet as a way to arrange your colors of what you already have. So taking those skeins and looking at a picture of something that's in cake form. And if you really love those colors together, you can just grab your solid skeins that are close enough. If they're in a color family and they're in similar tones, you will get a really pretty unique look doing that, just like you get from the cakes. Two more cakes, and this is in green tones, but they're very soft and muted. And this one right here is in earth tones. So these are all your browns, some orange in there. So you have those different tones, and you could use these the same way that I did this one back here, just using the two cakes and letting them do what they do to get you into more of your subtle tones and not so bright and vibrant. And there's so many different beautiful cakes out there, and you can just use those cakes as inspiration. You don't have to run out and buy a bunch of cakes. Us who do love cakes and have them on hand, these are ways that we can use them we might not have thought of. Some people won't like the look of this back here because they want to see all of this outline work the same color, and that can be great too. There's ways that you can do that using one color and a cake to create something really, really awesome as well. So this is the same design that's back here on my finished pillow cover. This is the same design, just worked in size 4 yarn. This is size 3 yarn. Here I'm using a solid yarn in neon pink, and I'm using that as my color B this time. And so it's a solid skein of yarn. And then for my color A, I am using Yarn Bee Sugar Wheel Cake. So I'm using one of the cakes, this cake in fact, the leftovers from my other project to do this one back here. What we're doing here is we can do our outline in the solid color, but instead of doing that, I wanted to do the cake because I still get some of that color change that I really like to see, but it looks a lot more subtle because we see less of it. So it's not as drastic as when we have that going on in the background right here. It's just a lot more subtle, so it gives you that more kind of like ombre effect or gradient effect to the color change in the cake. So that's why I like to do it like that, but it looks great obviously either way. So that is another option. Use a solid yarn with one of your cakes and let the color changing yarn kind of give you that gradient look that you really like. Now I'm going to show you some individual skeins that we can use in other projects that I have here on the channel as far as tutorials for the different mosaic designs. Release 2 weeks ago was this vintage ripple mosaic. So what we have here is we're using the orange, kind of orangey coral color here, and then a blue. And that's a great color combination to me. And then of course you can change it up by doing a color change as you're working up and bring in another color. And gray is a great option with the blue. I like the look of this, but for those of you who are looking for something different than this coral, let's say you're going to do a baby blanket and it's for a little boy, you can bring in this green, and the green with the blue looks really good as well. So that would be kind of maybe a color you wouldn't think about using that you can pair with something like this. Maybe we're doing for a little girl, we could use the hot pink. It is really bright, but you could see that will also look really good. So for this one right here, I was just pulling color families and grouping those together using solid yarns, doing this particular blanket. I'm kind of using what I have, but if you were going to design something up using specific colors for a certain look, there's some different options out there that you can use. So I know a lot of you really love kind of painted looking yarn. It looks more hand dyed. And so when we're looking at something like this, I think that it can work out great when you're using it in a pattern like this back here, because if we're using this as color A, we're going to group that together. So you're going to see that speckled marbly look all in one of these diamonds. So this is our inspiration color for our whole color palette. So we're building around that. This one right here is pulling out and playing more off of the bluer tones in the yarn and a lot going on. but it's so pretty when it's worked up in something like this. So this pattern right here, the re-release last week, that would be a great one to do this style yarn with, because you have these solid sections. They're the primary focus of the pattern. So it allows the color where I'm grouping them together more. Pattern number 9 would be another example. You could use something like this on pattern number 9 where it's going to group it together and you get to see the pretty effect that this creates from the way the yarn is dyed. So those are just some suggestions for patterns that you could use with it. But there's lots out there, and I'm not even saying you have to find one of mine, but just kind of giving you an idea of what I look for when I'm going to use certain types of yarn that maybe are a little less traditional. Not your solid colors, because mostly people go for solid colors. When they're doing mosaic, you pair together solids to create the design. Another combination that you could use is another one of the painted, looks more hand-dyed style yarns, and I'm pulling from it these different colors. So I'm bringing in the rosy pinks, and this is another one of the marled style yarns. So it's got lighter tones of pink in it. And those would look really good together, worked in something like that. And then I'm bringing out the gray tones. There's some very subtle bluish gray in here. So I'm pulling that out with this one right here. So these are 3 colors that I would put together to do a project with in Mosaic as well. And that kind of gives you guys, some of you that really love these, hopefully that's giving you some ideas of ways to pair them and use them in Mosaic. And then last but not least, I do want to show for those of you who want just to see some different color options. When you have your solid yarns, you can also look at things like this. So this is Yarn Bee Pigment and Fiber. And this one right here is Perfect Pumpkin. This one is Goodness Grapefruit. So you have these two, and I'm going to raise my camera up so you can see. So with these yarns, I would pair these two together and use them in a mosaic project as well. And the way that I would do that is, first of all, looking at them and the way that they have them arranged on here. There's some blues that are similar. They're not exactly the same, but we do have the same gold tones right there. We have this off-white up here. So we do see some colors that are similar. So I would flip this and I would work this way. So to give you an idea of how I'm going to use this one right here, the first one is color A, for several rows. So it'll be my color A, and this will be color B. And then as I work up in the project, I would transition this to now be my color A, and this to be my color B. And I'd work quite a few rows with this color combination. Then I would switch to this as my color A. This is the color B. So you get what I'm saying? We're just going to work in a series of rows. Maybe first 20 rows in this color, and then rows 21 to 40 I would do in these two colors, and so on. So that's a way that you can create a really pretty and interesting gradient by pairing together maybe scrap yarns that you have on hand. And you can always look up the pictures online of these different combinations that the yarn companies put together and figure out from there what you like and what you would put together. You could also do a mosaic with, so my color A will not change all throughout the project. It'll stay the one solid tone of yarn, and then I will have multiple color Bs all throughout the project. So that's a way that you can do something just like some of these other examples I've shown, but by using your individual skeins of yarn instead of buying cakes. So hopefully you found this video to be helpful. If you have any questions or colors, like your color that just pops to you, but you don't know what to pair with it, if you have a situation like that and you would like to leave a question about it down in the comments below, feel free. As always, I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.